What if everything you thought you knew about Barron Trump was wrong? For years, he has been the most private member of the Trump family, staying out of the spotlight while speculation about his future grew. But at 18, everything changed. His appearance at his father's inauguration, his quiet but strategic role in the 2024 election, and his surprising entry into the business world have all left people wondering, what is Barron really planning? Will he step into politics like his father? Is he laying the foundation for his own business empire? And most importantly, has he finally admitted what we all suspected? At 18, Barron Trump has spent most of his life in the public eye, yet remains a mystery to many. Unlike his older siblings, he has largely stayed out of political discussions, business ventures, and public interviews. For years, people have speculated about what kind of person he is, what he plans to do with his life, and whether he will follow in his father's footsteps. But everything changed when he made an appearance that got the world talking. Barron's presence at Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20, 2025 marked a turning point. For the first time in years, he stood beside his father, not as a child but as a young man, towering over nearly everyone in the room. At 6'7" tall, his striking presence was impossible to ignore. His dark tailored suit and confident posture added to the sense that he was no longer just the youngest Trump, but someone who could carve out a legacy of his own. As Donald Trump took the oath of office for the second time, the crowd erupted in applause. But what caught many off guard was a moment that wasn't in the speech, wasn't planned, and wasn't political. Looking at the cheering crowd, Trump smiled and turned toward his son. "I have a very tall son named Barron. Has anyone ever heard of him?" The crowd's reaction was immediate. Loud cheers, applause, and excitement. This off-the-cuff remark wasn't just a joke. It was a reminder that Barron, despite his quiet nature, had been at the heart of the Trump story all along. For years, people had wondered if he would step into the limelight like his father and older siblings. And in that moment, it felt as if Trump was acknowledging what many had suspected, that Barron was no longer just the quiet boy in the background. This moment quickly went viral. Social media exploded with discussions about Barron's poised demeanor, his height, and his resemblance to his father in his younger years. Some called it a passing joke. Others believed it was a subtle hint at something bigger. Was Trump signaling that Barron might play a larger role in the family's future? Speculation only grew when reports surfaced about Barron's involvement in Trump's re-election campaign. Unlike his older siblings, he wasn't standing on stage at rallies or giving speeches, but his influence was still there. Insiders close to the Trump campaign revealed that Barron had been keeping a close eye on the political landscape, particularly on younger voters. Donald Trump himself acknowledged his son's role, stating that Barron had given him advice about reaching out to the younger generation. "He knew the youth vote," Trump said during an event. "We won the youth vote by 36 points. He was saying, 'Dad, you have to go out and do this one or that one.' We did a lot of them. He respects them all. He understands them very well." This statement confirmed what many had long suspected. Barron, despite his silence, was deeply aware of the political world around him. Unlike his father, who thrives on media attention, Barron had chosen to keep his influence behind closed doors. But with his father back in the White House, people started asking whether he would stay in the background or begin stepping forward. Melania Trump has played a major role in shaping Barron's approach to public life. Throughout Trump's presidency, she made it clear that she wanted to protect her son's privacy. While Trump's older children had prominent roles in business and politics, Barron was raised with a different set of expectations. Melania kept him out of the press, away from interviews, and ensured that he had as normal a childhood as possible. Even during the re-election campaign, when the entire Trump family was on the road supporting Donald Trump, Barron was notably absent from most public events. This wasn't an accident. When Barron was chosen as an at-large delegate for Florida at the Republican National Convention, a position that would have given him an official role in the political process, Melania intervened. She released a statement saying, "While Barron is honored to have been chosen as a delegate by the Florida Republican Party, he regretfully declines to participate due to prior commitments." This decision spoke volumes. Barron had the opportunity to step into the political arena, but he declined. Whether it was his own decision or his mother's influence, it showed that he wasn't in a rush to follow in his father's footsteps. But that didn't mean he was staying idle. While much of the media focused on Barron's presence at the inauguration and his quiet political influence, another story was unfolding behind the scenes. Reports surfaced that Barron had made his first business move, a decision that surprised many. Unlike Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump, who were already deep into the family business by their early 20s, Barron had taken a different approach. In July 2024, Barron and two of his former high school classmates incorporated a business called Trump, Fulcher and Roxburgh Capital, Inc. The company, registered in Wyoming, was set to focus on luxury real estate investments. This was the first time Barron had put his name on a business venture, and it immediately raised questions. Was this a sign that he was quietly building his own empire? The move wasn't heavily publicized at the time, but for those who paid attention, it was significant. Trump, Fulcher, and Roxburgh Capital, Inc. was registered during one of the most politically charged periods of the campaign. Yet, just 4 months later, in November 2024, the company was officially dissolved. This sudden closure sparked even more speculation. Some believed that the business was shut down to avoid unwanted media scrutiny. With Donald Trump's re-election dominating headlines, Barron's venture could have drawn unnecessary attention, leading to speculation about conflicts of interest. Others suggested that it was simply a strategic move, a temporary pause before a bigger relaunch. Cameron Roxburgh, one of Barron's business partners, later confirmed that the company's closure was intentional. In an interview, he stated that they were stepping back to avoid distractions, but planned to relaunch in the spring of 2025 with a refined business model. He also hinted that the company's future could align with some of the Trump organization's upcoming projects. This revelation changed the way many viewed Barron. While he had declined to take on a political role, he wasn't distancing himself from the family's legacy. Instead, he was carefully laying the groundwork for what could be his own entry into the business world. Barron's approach so far has been deliberate, never rushing, never making impulsive moves. Whether in politics or business, he appears to be testing the waters before fully stepping in. The inauguration may have been his first major public moment, but it's becoming clear that it won't be his last. As the months go on, the question remains: will Barron Trump follow the traditional Trump path and step into politics? Or will he focus on building a business empire of his own? With his father back in the White House and his business interest beginning to take shape, it's only a matter of time before we find out. Despite the increasing public attention on Barron Trump, he has remained a largely private figure, carefully navigating his emergence into adulthood under the watchful eyes of both the media and his protective family. His presence at Donald Trump's second inauguration was not only a rare public appearance, but a sign of his growing confidence in stepping into the public eye. While Barron had long been shielded from direct political involvement, his role in the campaign and his presence at key events signaled a shift, one that suggested he was more aware and involved than most had assumed. Following the inauguration, discussions around Barron's future intensified. His towering height and composed demeanor led many to speculate whether he would eventually enter politics, following the path of his father and older siblings. Some believed his reluctance to appear frequently in political settings was a personal choice, while others pointed to the influence of Melania Trump, who has consistently prioritized her son's privacy over public engagement. Even as the Trump family returned to the White House, Melania was reportedly focused on ensuring that Barron had a sense of normalcy despite the unique position he found himself in. What set Barron apart from the rest of the Trump children was not just his age, but his upbringing. Unlike Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka, and Eric Trump, who were actively involved in their father's business and political endeavors from a young age, Barron was kept at a distance from the public scrutiny that came with the Trump name. Melania's approach to raising Barron was different from the way Trump's older children were brought up. She ensured that he had a more structured and private education, away from the corporate boardrooms and media attention that surrounded the rest of the family. His decision to attend New York University rather than follow in the footsteps of his older siblings, who attended the University of Pennsylvania and Georgetown, was another indication that Barron was carving his own path. While NYU's Stern School of Business is highly prestigious, the choice of studying in New York City placed him in an environment where he could maintain a level of anonymity while still preparing for a future that could involve business, politics, or both. Barron's transition to college life was not entirely typical. given his status as the president's son. Security measures were carefully put in place to ensure his safety, including a strong Secret Service presence on campus. Despite these precautions, reports suggest that Barron has adapted well to university life, balancing his studies with personal interests. Those who have interacted with him describe him as well-mannered, reserved, and intelligent, far from the loud, media-savvy persona of his father. At the same time, his interest in business was becoming more apparent. His brief venture into real estate with Trump, Fulcher, and Roxburgh Capital Inc. showed that he was not entirely uninterested in the family's legacy. The decision to dissolve the company after 4 months may have been strategic, considering the media attention surrounding the election. Barron's business partners confirmed that the company was not shut down due to failure, but rather to avoid unwanted scrutiny, with plans to relaunch in the near future. This suggests that Barron, despite his preference for privacy, is carefully considering his long-term role in business. His ability to navigate these different aspects of his life, political connections, business interests, and personal privacy, will likely define his future. While some believe that he will eventually follow in his father's footsteps, others argue that Barron's approach so far indicates that he is more likely to create his own path rather than simply inherit the family business or political ambitions. Given his age and the opportunities available to him, his next steps will be closely watched. One thing remains clear. Barron Trump is no longer just the youngest member of the Trump family. His presence at key events, his educational choices, and his quiet but calculated moves in business all point to someone who is carefully shaping his own narrative. Whether he chooses to enter politics, expand his business ventures, or maintain a lower public profile, he has already shown that he understands the power of timing and discretion. As he continues his studies and navigates the next phase of his life, it will be interesting to see how he further integrates into the family's evolving legacy. His decisions so far suggest that, while he respects his father's influence, he is in no rush to be defined by it. Instead, he is moving forward at his own pace, ensuring that when he does step into a larger role, whether in business or politics, it will be on his own terms. Barron Trump's presence in the public eye has steadily grown, but it remains carefully managed. Unlike his father and older siblings, he has avoided direct engagement with the press, never giving interviews or making public statements. Yet his actions and choices speak volumes about the path he is shaping for himself. His reserved nature contrasts sharply with the outspoken personas of his family, making his public appearances all the more intriguing. With each sighting, speculation about his future continues to grow. As he settles into his studies at New York University, he faces the challenge of balancing personal ambitions with the weight of his family's name. NYU's Stern School of Business places him in one of the most competitive academic environments, offering him access to top-tier business education while allowing him to stay close to his family's real estate empire in Manhattan. His presence at the university, though marked by heightened security, is seen as an attempt to experience a degree of normalcy despite the extraordinary circumstances of being the president's son. His decision to pursue business studies aligns with the interests that have shaped the Trump family for decades. While his siblings entered the Trump organization early on, Barron's approach has been notably different. His brief involvement in Trump, Fulcher, and Roxburgh Capital Inc. was his first real move into the world of business. Though the company dissolved after just 4 months, sources close to the venture have stated that it was a strategic pause rather than an abandonment of plans. The decision to halt operations during his father's presidential campaign was likely influenced by the intense media scrutiny that would have come with the company's success or failure. The company, initially registered in Wyoming, was focused on high-end real estate, a natural fit given the family's long history in the industry. The choice of Wyoming, known for its business-friendly regulations and tax advantages, suggested a well-thought-out strategy. While many questioned why Barron would enter the business world so early, those familiar with the situation believe it was a calculated move, testing the waters before making a more permanent commitment. Despite stepping back from the business temporarily, Barron's interest in the field has not faded. With his education now focused on business and finance, he is laying the groundwork for a potential return to the industry. His father's influence in real estate remains a dominant force, and if Barron chooses to re-enter the market, he will have both the knowledge and resources to do so on a much larger scale. Meanwhile, his appearances at high-profile events continue to spark conversation. His attendance at his father's inauguration was a moment of significance, not just because of the rare nature of his public presence, but because of how different he appeared from previous years. At 6'9" tall, he towered over nearly everyone at the event, and his composed demeanor caught the attention of many observers. While his older siblings actively engaged with the media and political figures, Barron remained reserved, standing beside his mother, Melania, who has been his strongest advocate for privacy. Melania's influence over Barron's life choices remains a defining factor. While Donald Trump's older children were encouraged to embrace the family business and politics early on, Melania has taken a different approach, ensuring that Barron's path remains his own. Her careful management of his privacy during his younger years has carried over into his transition into adulthood. While he is beginning to take steps into the public sphere, it is clear that these steps are deliberate and measured. The question of whether Barron will follow his father into politics remains unanswered. So far, he has shown no intention of stepping into a campaign role, despite the speculation surrounding his political potential. His presence at rallies and his father's campaign events was mostly in a supportive capacity, rather than an active role. While some have speculated that he could one day enter the political arena, others believe he will choose a path similar to his mother's, one that stays away from the constant scrutiny of Washington. For now, his focus appears to be on education and understanding the business world. His early interest in real estate, combined with his position at NYU, suggests that he is preparing for a future that may align more closely with the family's business empire rather than its political ambitions. With his father once again in the White House, he has the unique opportunity to observe both worlds up close. Whether he will eventually step into either remains to be seen. What is clear, however, is that Barron Trump is not rushing into anything. Every move he has made so far has been carefully considered, reflecting a level of patience and discretion that sets him apart. As he continues his studies and begins to shape his professional identity, he remains one of the most intriguing figures in the Trump family, one whose future is still unfolding. Barron Trump's ability to maintain a level of privacy while standing at the center of one of the most scrutinized families in the world is remarkable. Even as speculation about his future continues, he has managed to stay largely silent, allowing his actions to speak for themselves. His attendance at key events, his decision to study business, and his brief but notable step into real estate indicate a young man who is carefully shaping his own path. While some assume he will eventually take on a more active role in the Trump brand, others believe he may choose a more private life, avoiding the public and political attention that his family is so accustomed to. His time at New York University has provided him with an opportunity to experience a different kind of independence. While his status as the president's son comes with certain limitations, those who have encountered him at NYU describe him as approachable yet reserved. Unlike his older siblings, who were publicly active in their father's business and political dealings during their college years, Barron's approach appears more measured. He has not given any interviews or made public comments about his studies, but those close to him suggest that he is serious about his education and is taking the time to understand the business world before making any major career decisions. His connection to real estate remains strong. Even though his initial venture, Trump, Fulcher and Roxburgh Capital Inc. was dissolved after 4 months, reports suggest that this was never meant to be a permanent closure. His business partners, particularly Cameron Roxburgh, have hinted at a relaunch in the near future, with plans to move forward once the political climate settles. This suggests that Barron, rather than simply experimenting with business, is strategically planning his next move. The decision to dissolve the company temporarily may have been a way to avoid media scrutiny, allowing him to refine the project without the added pressure of constant public attention. At the same time, his presence at events like his father's inauguration has kept him in the public eye. Unlike his older siblings, who are well-versed in handling media and public relations, Barron has taken a more reserved approach. At the inauguration, he stood quietly, engaging only minimally with the cameras and reporters. Yet his very presence was enough to generate headlines, with social media and news outlets analyzing his every movement. His height, his poised demeanor, and even his choice of attire became subjects of discussion, reinforcing the idea that even in silence he commands attention. One of the biggest questions surrounding Barron is whether he will choose a career in politics. His father's comment during the inauguration, jokingly asking if the crowd had ever heard of Barron, sparked speculation that he was being introduced to the public in a more intentional way. However, there have been no concrete indications that Barron has any political ambitions. While he was involved in discussions about the youth vote during Trump's campaign, he has not taken any formal steps toward entering the political arena. Those close to the family suggest that, at least for now, his focus remains on business rather than public office. His mother, Melania Trump, continues to be a key influence in shaping his decisions. Throughout Trump's presidency, she prioritized Barron's privacy, and it appears that this approach has extended into his adulthood. While she has supported her husband's political career, she has remained protective of their son, ensuring that he is not forced into a role he does not want. Some believe that her influence will ultimately keep Barron away from politics, at least in the immediate future. If he does decide to enter the public sphere, it will likely be on his own terms rather than as a result of family expectations. What remains undeniable is that Barron has already made calculated steps toward building his own identity. His education, business interests, and public appearances all suggest a young man who is aware of the opportunities available to him, but is not in a rush to make hasty decisions. Unlike his older siblings, who were in the spotlight from a young age, Barron has taken a more observant role, learning from the successes and challenges of those around him. As he continues his studies and considers his next steps, his choices will shape the way he is perceived by both supporters and critics of the Trump family. Whether he chooses to build a business empire, step into politics, or maintain a life of relative privacy, his future remains one of the most intriguing aspects of the Trump legacy. His recent actions suggest that while he may not be in the spotlight as often as the rest of his family, he is carefully positioning himself for the future. The question is not if Barron Trump will make an impact, but when and how. As Barron Trump continues to transition into adulthood, the speculation surrounding his next steps only grows stronger. His public appearances have remained selective, yet each one fuels new discussions about his future. His presence at his father's inauguration was seen by many as a signal that he is stepping further into the public eye, but his reserved demeanor suggests that he is still carefully weighing his options. Unlike his father and older siblings, Barron has never actively sought media attention, and this calculated approach has left many wondering whether he will ever fully embrace the public role that seems almost inevitable. His education at New York University remains a priority, reinforcing the idea that he is taking a methodical path toward his future. While some of his older siblings jumped into business and politics early, Barron appears to be in no hurry to follow the same trajectory. Those who have interacted with him at NYU describe him as intelligent, observant, and thoughtful in his discussions. While he has not publicly spoken about his studies, it is clear that he is immersing himself in the business world, preparing for what may come next. His brief yet significant involvement in the real estate venture with Trump, Fulcher and Roxborough Capital Inc. revealed his growing interest in business. The decision to pause operations after only 4 months was seen by some as an early setback, but those familiar with the project argue otherwise. The company's temporary dissolution was likely a strategic move to avoid the complexities of launching a business in the middle of a highly publicized presidential campaign. If the firm does relaunch as expected, it could serve as a crucial first step in Barron's professional journey. The question remains whether he will choose to return to real estate, expand into other industries, or take a completely different path. His options are wide open, and his deliberate approach suggests that he is carefully considering each one. Unlike his father, who built his career on bold and often risky business moves, Barron appears to be more reserved in his decision-making. He is observing, learning, and ensuring that when he does make a move, it is well thought out. Despite his measured approach, there is still ongoing speculation about a potential political future. His father's joke at the inauguration about Barron being recognized by the public was likely just that, a joke. But for some, it raised the possibility that he might one day take a more active role in politics. While there is no indication that he has any immediate plans to do so, the influence of the Trump name means that even the smallest actions are analyzed for hidden meaning. His role in the 2024 election, though largely behind the scenes, was another factor that fueled speculation. His father credited him with understanding the youth vote, and while Barron never formally campaigned, his insights into younger demographics reportedly played a role in shaping parts of Trump's strategy. This level of involvement, even if indirect, suggests that he is not entirely disconnected from politics. The question is whether he will ever step forward in a more official capacity. For now, his focus appears to be on continuing his education and taking his time to define his career path. While his last name ensures that he will always be part of the Trump legacy, Barron has the opportunity to forge his own identity. Whether that means expanding into real estate, finance, or another industry remains to be seen. What is clear is that he is not rushing to make any commitments. His mother, Melania, remains one of the strongest influences in his life, and her protective nature continues to shape his decisions. She has consistently kept him out of the media spotlight and has emphasized the importance of privacy, even as he steps into adulthood. Her guidance has allowed Barron to grow up with a level of normalcy that is rare for someone in his position. It is likely that any major decisions he makes will be carefully discussed with her before being made public. As he moves forward, the world will be watching to see what direction he takes. Whether he chooses to follow his father into politics, return to real estate, or carve out a different path entirely. One thing is certain: Barron Trump is in control of his own story. His silence has been as strategic as his actions, allowing him to build a future on his own terms. While he may not be making headlines every day, each step he takes offers a glimpse into the person he is becoming. In the coming years, his choices will determine whether he remains a private figure or steps fully into the public sphere, shaping the next chapter of the Trump legacy in his own way. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.